Sounds like your trip around the world opened your eyes, but you got a little bit more than you anticipated. You must have seen a lot of darkness.
So? That could only tell him so much. How did he know I would be here today?
Simple.
Kairi! Oh, ah! Hey! Wait!
I accidentally wandered into this place, and went through some trials. Then, I was told to save Sora.
However, if you arrive in a world that's neither of light nor darkness, but somewhere on the other side, your task will be far from easy. If that happens, you must abandon your search. We have failed.
In Kingdom Hearts Melody of Memories, we learned that Kairi was sent to the outside world thanks to Terra Xehanort, who had hoped to use her powers as a Princess of Heart to resonate with a Keyblade wielder, as it was the only way to save their world. We also learned that Xehanort told her that if she were to arrive in a world that's neither of light nor darkness, but somewhere on the other side, she must abandon her search, and they have failed. We later learned that this world Xehanort was referring to is called a world of fiction, or unreality, which exists entirely separate from the universe of Kingdom Hearts we already know. We also know that a resident of the world of fiction is the Nameless Star, as well as Yozora. Also in Kingdom Hearts Union Cross, we have finally come face to face with darkness, who reveals more about who it is, and what it can do. And it is implied, thanks to Kingdom Hearts Dark Road, that Xehanort has encountered this darkness before. But what's the deal with the world of fiction, and why is it important? What's the deal with darkness, and how do these plot points all connect? Well, that's what I'm going to try and answer today. So ever since Melody and Memory came out, I've been thinking about trying to piece together what this world of fiction is and how does it relate to things like the Master. I've also been trying to piece together what Xehanort was talking about when he was sending Kairi off into the lanes between. After all, Xehanort speaks as if he has known about the fictional world for a long time, and seemingly took actions in preparation for anything like that. So, how much of this world did Xehanort know about? And were his actions centered around that? To answer the first question, I think Xehanort knew more about this world than what most methods would otherwise permit, due to him receiving intel possibly from the Master, as well as one other person possibly. As for the second question, there could be a chance that a lot of Xehanort's actions were centered around this world of fiction. Here's what I mean. We know that thanks to Kingdom Hearts 3, that Xehanort's end goal was essentially to reset the world in a purge that would keep the world from possibly being polluted by darkness from the weak, and he felt like the world was now a failure due to the events of the past involving darkness plaguing the world. But what if there was more to it? To further explain this, I need to explain what I believe the deal is with the world of fiction. I believe that maybe the world of fiction holds some kind of threat to our reality, or some conflict will plague our reality thanks to this world of fiction. Which would not only explain Xehanort's wording during the scene in Melody of Memory, but would also explain these two scenes. You know what these two scenes have in common? They involve Xehanort helping the protagonist. Let's look at the first scene.
There are two more.
Huh? Oh. Why are you here?
I am the one who hid the fragments of Kairi that you seek. Of course I am here. No matter. Did you come alone?
Yeah.
Are you prepared to pay the ultimate price?
Enough! It's only two! I'm saving Kairi!
Unfortunately, you're a little too late.
Oh no.
It appears you have failed to retrieve Kairi in the time to come. So here you are, once again, in times already past. However, now that the other you has arrived, you're doomed to repeat the same fate.
What can I do?
What indeed? You are nearly out of time.
While it may not be obvious, Xehanort was helping Sora find the last pieces of Kairi. It may not seem like that initially because Xehanort isn't going to just give Sora the answer, and he probably figured even if he did, considering Sora and Xehanort's dynamic, Sora probably wouldn't trust his word. But remember, Sora had no idea what else he needed to do, and didn't even know how many more fragments were left that he needed to find. After all, when he found 5, he didn't know what else he needed to do. So it was Xehanort who directly told him that there were 2 more. Without that, Sora wouldn't have known, and another thing is that we know Xehanort doesn't do things unnecessarily. Why would he choose to help Sora and give him a hint towards finding Kairi, knowing she's his last resort to his plans, or even bother talking to him when he can clearly recognize that this Sora is from the future and is literally about to fade from existence? He could have very easily just simply ignored Sora and let him fail to bring Kairi back or directly stop him from proceeding any further. It wouldn't make any other kind of sense for Xehanort to go out of his way and help out his enemy unless he had a good reason. Then there's this scene.
This world was created from the memories contained within your heart. You seek clues to Sora's whereabouts by using your memories of him to search through your own heart. But there's nothing for you to find here. I'm afraid the answer you seek lies in memories that are long gone. As I thought, your voice can't reach us here. Now I'm certain of where your heart is.
If you arrive in a world that's neither of light nor darkness, but somewhere on the other side, your task will be far from easy. That is the answer I have for you.
And I know what you all are gonna say, but this is an illusion of Xehanort brought out from Kairi's heart. And yes, while that may be true, we have seen that beings who are made from one's heart or even copies of a person can and will act on no one else's will but their own, and have their personality traits. So with that in mind, Xehanort, illusion or not, didn't have to help out Kairi find any hints towards where Sora was. Maybe Xehanort went on the offensive just to force Sora to use his connection to Kairi just for the sake of validating to himself where exactly Sora's heart was so he can give Kairi the answer she is looking for. That would explain why Xehanort told Kairi that if she were to arrive in a fictional world, while he does say that they have failed, he does say that her task will be far from easy. So what is this task? Like I said earlier, I believe that the world of fiction and the real world are going to face an issue, with either one or both realities being in great danger. Maybe it's something akin to them needing to bring balance between these 2 worlds, or maybe, just maybe, the world of fiction needs to be connected to the real world as they may have been once before. There's already been suspicions of the world of Quadrata being an alternate world or something of our reality, and I actually want to call your attention to 2 scenes from earlier in the series. One from DDD and the other one from KH3.
Riku, there's something else you need to know. These 2 Traverse towns separated by the portal. I was under the impression they were parallel worlds, but it looks like I was wrong.
Their homeworld would be running on a different time axis too.
Yes, I understand that, but if these Traverse towns were parallel worlds, then time would flow the same in both. But it doesn't. Ergo, they are not parallel worlds.
You mean there's a past and a future?
No, impossible. The worlds are clearly separate. It's not just time that sets them apart. As you yourself noted, every world flows at its own pace, which tells me that for all their similarities, these are 2 distinct worlds.
Distinct worlds?
Yes, but this is all conjecture. It's like the same world imagined by 2 people. What does that tell you? That we're in...
A dream.
It probably means they split this world in two. Your friends in one world, us in the other. Only one of the worlds is real, and the other is just really convincing.
The only times we hear about the world splitting is in two scenarios, where either the world itself or the characters, there may have been some possible relation to the world of fiction. Now, I'm not fully saying that the fictional world is part of our reality, although that could be the case considering that Buzz, Woody, and the other toys were more or less completely separated from Slinky, Jessie, and the other toys. In a way, we haven't seen this before, but I'm saying that there may be some history and connection between the fictional world and the real world that may have been shattered long ago. Maybe that's part of the reason Xehanort wanted to reset the world, and I think that while trying to achieve his goals, he recognized 3 keys needed to save the fictional world, and their own, and maybe a possible collapsing, but I'll get to that in a second. For now, I want to go over how Xehanort could possibly know this information. After all, knowing how smart Yen Sid is, he only knew bits and pieces of the fictional world business, while Xehanort seemed to be pretty well versed on the subject. And as far as we know, the only way to find out more about these answers are hidden somewhere in Scala-ed Caelum. But Xehanort definitely knows more than he probably should. This is Xehanort after all. This might be due to one, possibly 2 people. The first person to teach Xehanort was the Master of Masters. We know that Xehanort had been in cahoots with him at least once, and the Master even dropped some knowledge on him. I don't have much to prove of this, and it's more a shot in the dark, but I'm guessing that the Master helped Xehanort learn about the world of fiction, possibly due to Xehanort's encounter with another person who I think may have easily taught Xehanort. That being darkness. As we all know, darkness belongs to a race of dark beings who essentially served as the darkness of the world before the Keyblade War. They have malleable beings and often make their presence more or less completely unknown to other people unless that they either have a good reason or someone has the means of seeing them. Also, it may not necessarily be characters known as darkness as we see in Union Cross, but another belonging to that race. But there's a few things I found that suggest that Xehanort is an agent of darkness, or at least had an eventful encounter with it. First being Xehanort's encounter with the Master. As we know, that was shortly before the Master gifted Xehanort a black coat, which we all know wards off darkness, which was given to him right before his exam. To my knowledge, that wouldn't make much sense for Xehanort to have it at that point, because in the story of Kingdom Hearts, Xehanort was perfectly capable of traveling in the lanes between without his Keyblade armor. Why would the Master need to do this unless it was for another reason? To keep any darkness beings from possibly latching on to Xehanort, while also telling him to gain control of the darkness to prevent any darkness controlling him. Let's not forget the throwaway line,
Sounds like your trip around the world opened your eyes, but you got a little bit more than you anticipated. You must have seen a lot of darkness.
Not to mention, the ideologies Xehanort describes is identical to what we see in Union Cross.
Those who are weak and who desire greater power simply strip the strong of their power and convince themselves they've earned it.
So maybe darkness is acting to introduce Xehanort to the world of fiction, and maybe Xehanort accidentally let the darkness latch to him because he misjudged the strength of darkness and his own heart, which could possibly explain the coloration in his eyes. Remember, darkness can latch on to a host, and not only that, but any hidden thoughts or desires a person may have, they will be further amplified by darkness. Like how according to darkness, Ven desired power, and when darkness latched onto him, he was driven to murder Strelitzia for the sake of taking her position as a Union leader, because to Ventus, that was a position of power. So maybe a good chunk of Xehanort's drive was amplified by darkness. And I know it sounds crazy that darkness could be dealing with Xehanort, but not only does Xehanort say during his talk with the Master perfectly match what happened to Ven, but don't forget that in Kingdom Hearts Dark Road, Xehanort encountered Darkness, who was behind the Queen of Hearts, and Xehanort not only could acknowledge that it was a separate presence from the Queen of Hearts, but he also claimed that it smiled. There's also possibly another clue in the Kingdom Hearts 3 intro. As we start, we get a shot of young Xehanort who looks in the sky directly at a purple glow, which anyone familiar with the series will understand that glow is darkness related. And what's interesting is that right after that, any other time we see young Xehanort, his eyes are intentionally well hidden. So you can never get a good look at his eyes unless he's Master Xehanort, because darkness knows how to hide. The only other time we can clearly see young Xehanort's eyes is at the end, which is probably depicted the version of Xehanort which is now dead, and the last Sora saw him was with gray eyes as a teenager. And even this shot is a bit tricky because as soon as Xehanort turns his head so we can get a frontal view of his eyes, he goes blurry. But this all circles back to the big question: why would darkness latch on to Xehanort? To further his goals? To harm the Master? To push Sora? I think to an extent yes to all these questions, but why? Because the Book of Prophecies. Remember, at least one of the darkness beings has seen what's in the Book of Prophecies because they were there while it was being written, and has admitted to knowing a lot about what is written in the book. So darkness would be able to tell Xehanort a lot of what happened in the book. I believe darkness may be doing this for the sake of impeding the Master, who wants nothing but to see it gone. So much so, he was willing to completely abandon his world and let it destroy itself for the sake of destroying darkness, and some of darkness's actions to be messing with the Master's carefully written program lines up. And one of the key people needed to stop the Master as well as save the fictional world is Sora, who definitely could, since he owns the Keyblade now. At least Xehanort definitely knew that Xehanort was probably going to go to the fictional world, mainly because of these two lines.
Seeing that you have also taken the forbidden path, you too must be ready to make the ultimate sacrifice.
Be prepared to pay the ultimate price.
Implying that he knows someone who made the same decisions as Sora and paid a price, and Master Xehanort talks as if he knows exactly what's going to happen to Sora soon, since it's implied that he could tell that Sora was about to fade from existence. But who was the first person that paid the price? Probably the Master, because mainly the fashion in which he fades is similar to Sora fading. So that brings it back to Xehanort helping Sora and Kairi, because he knows what needs to be done in the fictional world, and he is helping out the keys in a necessary way. These three keys need to save the real world and the fictional world are Sora, Riku, and Kairi. And what if I told you that Xehanort had been taking steps just in case the timeline of events led to this kind of point? First, I'll go over Sora. His actions in KH3 would definitely suggest that he was pushing Sora in the right direction to give him what he needed. What Sora needed to get was the Keyblade and essentially banish himself to the world of fiction. I think that also what Xehanort picked up during his conversation with future Sora and knew the pieces were aligning, which is why he chose to help Sora save Kairi. Second is Riku. He needed to make sure Riku not only served as a bridge to help the others get to the world of fiction, but also make sure that he was ready to walk down a dark path like Xehanort and come out as a brand new kind of Keyblade Master. That would be essentially in not only getting to the world of fiction, but ensuring the safety of the worlds. This is probably why Ansem sent Riku to Hollow Bastion in Kingdom Hearts 1 to send him down the dark path. Don't forget that in Recoded, we learned that Riku didn't disappear from this point in the story, but disappeared shortly after Sora left thanks to Ansem and Kairi. Oh boy, Kairi. Initially, I had a hard time figuring out how Xehanort made her a key prior to Kingdom Hearts 3, but then I saw this scene where Kairi gets spooked by Ansem when he is in a brown robe, but going by the knowledge of Kingdom Hearts, those two never met. Or have they? It's been shown and stated that Kairi's entire life's course has basically been shaped by Xehanort. He threw in the lanes between for the sake of finding a Keyblade wielder, he destroyed her body for the sake of pushing Sora, and even helped her in order to get to Quadratum. Because he knows as well Sora is a key, so he made sure to push Sora and Kairi to a close enough dynamic to strengthen their bond, as well as ensure the actions of Sora and Kairi in the future in order to make the fictional world known to them. This is supported by this scene in DDD.
Him. Is that?
Yes. The point in time that Xigbar mentioned.
Me. Right before my world was swallowed by the darkness.
To move through time, you must leave your body behind. Ansem first sent me on my way. and then placed himself here when the time was right. That is what set all these events in motion.
What are you saying? That he knew everything that would happen?
No, not everything. But remember, Ansem possessed Riku and saw his experiences in real time.
So? That could only tell him so much. How did he know I would be here today?
Simple.
Kairi!
We clearly see that shortly before Sora entered the cave in Destiny Islands, Ansem in the brown robe was there. And who else was in the cave before Sora? Kairi. That may explain why Kairi was so sick looking, as well as explaining why the door opened to push Kairi towards Sora so that he could house her heart, thus signaling the start of their strong bond. So what does this mean for the fictional world, and ours in the future? What I think it means is that these three keys will be responsible for bringing peace and order between these two worlds. I think other people may realize this too besides Xehanort, as it may be known to others in one way or another. Maybe that's why Yozora was asked to save Sora for the sake of protecting his world. I know Yozora says he accidentally wandered into this place, but I think he meant that he accidentally wandered into the dream version of that world, and therefore it wasn't the real world in any sense, something else that Yozora did say during that cutscene. Otherwise, the Nameless Star, who was confirmed to be a resident of the fictional world, wouldn't have known Yozora as well. Now, the main thing I'm not sure I tackle too much on this channel is who gave the order to Sora. Well, I think it boils down to three people. One of them I have mentioned before, but I'm not sure about the other two. These three people can either be Ava, or the Master, or Joshua. Why the Master could be a person who told Yozora to save Sora is because we have also seen in the Kingdom Hearts 3 secret ending that he is incredibly close to Sora, so maybe he's planning to do something with him, which is why he needed Yozora to do whatever he did to him to get Sora close to him. Next possibility being Ava. This is very possible because we learned that the Foretellers escaped into the fictional world, and since Ava didn't come back, we can assume that she's still in there. And if it's Joshua, I think Joshua may have realized that Sora was in danger and asked Yozora to save him to prevent him from dying. This is definitely similar in the case of Joshua saving the rest of the Shibuya gang, as he prevented his friends from dying by holding onto the remnants of their dreams and using Rhyme's dreams to go to the Dream Traverse Town, which would explain Yozora's wording saying that he's heard of him before. If Joshua was the one who told him about Sora, and Yozora saying things like, "Why are you using Sora's name?" it could play into whatever is the cause of Yozora's physical change in the appearance and can make him not trust what he sees, but instead what he hears. But regardless, the pieces are set and the three keys need to perform their role in protecting the world and possibly the fictional world. Oh boy, that was a lot to put down. I have been working very hard on this theory, guys. Let me know what you guys think about this theory in the description below. Do you guys think that Joshua or Ava or the Master was the one who told Yozora to save Sora? Do you think that we'll see some cutscene between Darkness and Xehanort in the future, which would further explain some of Xehanort's actions into what he did? And why do you guys think that Xehanort chose to help out Sora and Kairi? So let me know what you guys think about all this in the description below. Make sure you guys rate, comment, and subscribe. Check out my Twitter and my Twitch. Please check out my Discord channel. This has been Noir Low Bomber, and I'm out.